Hey, what's up, Robin? How's it going?
Hey George, I'm good. How you doing?
Doing good. Have the pleasure of having another great episode today. So I'm always excited whenever I get to sit down with you for a bit.
Same, same. I love chatting with you. And we have today Josh Hahn with us as our guest. And today we're going to be talking about building the therapeutic rapport. Feels like a tongue twister to me today. Um, And Josh, before I let you talk a little bit about yourself, just gonna share with everybody a little bit about you and the bio information, and you can add whatever you want afterwards. So, Josh is a licensed clinical social worker as well as a certified addiction specialist, and he works at Soho MD. And Josh has a very warm and welcoming approach with his patients, and he's very passionate about validating their experience while they're in therapy, and as well as, of course, helping them gain self-awareness, insight, self-acceptance, the things that most therapists, I think, hope to encourage our patients to get to and experience. um, uses talk therapy, and he incorporates mindfulness practices and techniques in order to help his patients achieve these healthy coping skills. Um, Josh, you've been a therapist, I think, since 2007, and you work with minors, teenagers, and
Correct. Yeah.
families as well. And in your free time, yes, we have a little information about your free time. And in your free time, you enjoy traveling, spending time with family and friends, and skiing, mountain biking, hiking, and camping. Wow, outdoors. And maybe that's because you're in Colorado. I'm assuming,
Very
right?
much
Lots
so.
of outdoor stuff to do there. Um, so thank you, welcome, thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Great.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so we have a lot of good questions today, Josh. So I think I can just start by, highlighting that, you have in the past, worked in like physical settings, schools with, minors, and then now you're transitioned over to more of a virtual environment, with patients over the age of 18. Do you think you've made any adjustments to build therapeutic rapport with patients, seeing that it's different styles of communication that, you have maybe done in the past?
Yeah. Great question, George. I think absolutely. And I think that times have changed. The world has changed a lot since the pandemic. And there was a time prior to coming to Soho MD when I was working in as a school social worker, and we had to go virtual, go remote for a period of time, and do a lot of screen time with our students. And I'll admit, at first it was very uncomfortable to see myself on camera, to hear my voice, Um, and I think just with practice, that lessened over time. I got more used to it, got more comfortable, got more confident. And coming from an in person setting before coming to Soho, which was just this last July 2023, um, yeah, I had to make some adjustments virtually, but I think that I already gained a little bit of that experience of being on camera and I was more comfortable with it. But, I think there are certain things that you certainly have to be mindful of in a virtual setting. And one of those things I think is um, we're really privileged as doing teletherapy to be able to come into the client's home. You know, that helps us allow us get to know the patients, a glimpse into their world, things that might be um, not noticeable if they were coming into an office setting, things that we get to see on their walls, posters, maybe it's bikes in the background, something that I can very much relate to, and it allows me to connect with my patients in a different way.
It's so interesting. I've been doing remote therapy for so long that I almost forget, right, that people have to acclimate from being in person. And being in a school setting is even different than having a private in person practice because it's so specific. And the environment that you're in also, I think, sets up certain almost rules just by nature of where you are, what you're meant to do, and what you're not meant to do. So I can see that transition being something like, oh, wait, and having to kind of connect maybe to your clinical self in a different kind of way, to establish rapport virtually, right? It's very different. So that is our topic today. So I would love to hear your take on what this, I mean, it's a concept, I guess, right? We hear it, and when I say we, everybody, I mean like therapists. We're trained in school like from day one to you have to establish rapport, you have to establish trust, you have to create a therapeutic alliance. So Josh, what is a therapeutic rapport mean to you? Like, what is that concept to you?
Great question. Well, therapeutic rapport to me means that you're able to engage the patient in therapy, that they are willing to be vulnerable, they're willing to be open, they're willing to be honest, they're willing to take responsibility for themselves, and come to treatment with some goals to work on, some things to work on. And I'm really honored that I can talk about this topic because I really feel like that's kind of one of my special skills of being a therapist, is being able to establish therapeutic rapport. Um, and so I think, there's a lot of crossover that happens both in person as well as virtual. But there are definitely some things that you need to adjust in a virtual environment. And a great example would be my first day at Soho MD, where I was doing intakes. And I had two monitors. I had a screen set up with my notes on one monitor and then the camera on my computer. Well, I was looking at the notes most of the time and forgetting that the camera was actually, facing me, and I'm like this with the patient. So all they really saw was the side of my face, And it took me nearly that whole, probably three patients before I realized, oh shoot, they're seeing is the side of my face. They must be wondering what's going on. And so, I think it's important for us to also, admit that we're human, that we make mistakes and take responsibility. And so it provided kind of just some good humor the next time I got to meet with those patients, be like, hey, look, I'm so sorry. All you saw was my face this lot, last week.
So you were able to flip that into like an experience kind of to get some rapport with the patients to do that. So you're using all these opportunities as best as possible. Is what it seems like.
Yeah.
I had another question, to follow up. Can you share some insights between the differences in establishing therapeutic rapport with, let's say, minors versus adults?
Sure, sure. Of course, I think there's, just to start, there's so many similarities and kind of what Robin alluded to before, and it goes back to kind of therapist 101 is we have to establish a safe place, a comfortable place for our patients. And therapeutic rapport, I mean, without therapeutic rapport, it's really hard to have successful outcomes or get the client to gain very much. And so with anyone, and particularly with adolescents, I think it's really important to hit the ground running and really work hard those first couple sessions to establish that therapeutic rapport. Better to go slow than to go fast, kind of thing. For adolescents, what I really like to focus on with them is using humor. I also really like to, I think a lot of adolescents and a lot of people in general come in with a worry that they're going to be judged, worry about what other people might think of them. And so it's really important for me to create a safe space to welcome them into therapy, to give them kudos, for being there, let them know that, they are, I see it as a strength that they're seeking out therapy, using that support and resource. Um, and a big thing with teenagers or adolescents is really starting with trying to figure out, what they enjoy, what they're interested in, things that they're passionate about. Trying to find a way for them to not look at it so much as a therapy session, a formal therapy session, but as just someone to talk to and help them let their guard down. And then I think that really kind of opens up the door.
Hey Josh, so yeah, just interested, if this is something that therapists do at all, or if it's important. Do you have to uh take some interest into your patient's interest, whether it be like a movie or music or a book or something like that? Is it like something that helps build rapport?
Yeah, absolutely. I do, when a patient shares something with me that they're interested in or that they're passionate about, I really like to show genuine curiosity, show that I'm actively listening, have, attention to detail. And sometimes I might not really know, much about what they're talking about. And I like to be upfront about that and help me understand and teach me a little bit about that. And I think they really enjoy sharing. But I find too, between sessions, sometimes, I want to find out a little bit more about what it is that they were talking about. Um, I don't mean to be like any means an expert in it, but I want to know more about these, different things that you're sharing with me. And I think that that helps just establish and build rapport and strengthen our relationship.
And I'm of course thinking, as I hear about this very often and get asked how to handle it. So I was just wondering if you have any tips or techniques or tools that you use when there's been a breach in the rapport. They happen most of the time unintentionally on our part. We say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or we don't pick up on something, or we forget something, and the patient becomes upset, and then you know takes it as you're not paying attention or you don't care about me. Well, number one, have you had that experience? Maybe you haven't, and if you have, how do you mend that? How do you mend the breach in that rapport?
Yeah, great question. We're human, I think all therapists may experience that at some point in their career during a therapy session. And that can be really challenging to handle. But I think, it's important that we acknowledge it, that we're constantly checking in with our patients in one way or another. And hey, I want to know what that felt like for you, or what are you hearing? And I always like to, during my intake sessions and just when I begin to meet with patients, and let them know my hope and my desire is for you to get the best quality of care, for you to benefit from the services that you receive. And if at any point you feel like we're not a good match, we're not a good fit for one another, I hope that we can have an open, honest conversation, and I can certainly tweak and do things different. Um, but if there's ever any point where you feel like, yeah, this just isn't working, Josh, you're just not the right fit for me, I want to be able to provide them with some resources and some referrals. And I will by no means be offended if they feel like they're not a good fit for me. Because bottom line, the most important thing is that they feel safe, comfortable, we have good rapport.
I love that. I love that that's your mindset, and that's how you approach each patient. I think that is so important. So it's great that you do that and see things from that perspective.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So just a side question. I know you said you don't get offended, but does it ever like hurt you? Like, oh man, like I thought we were gonna have a breakthrough soon, or something like that.
Sure, sure. I mean, maybe at first thought it might be that thought, oh man, yeah, or you might feel a little bit hurt or disappointed, but it's not about me. and it's all about, them getting the best quality of care. And so I liken it much to dating or something too. We're in the dating world, you're going to find people who you like them, but they don't like you, and vice versa. And we're not all meant for one another. And the world would be a weird place if everyone was a match. And so I think the same is true of a therapist patient relationship. You got to find someone who's the right match.
Well, I think we found you as a right match for our guest today because it was very, very insightful. It was a lot of great discussions. Robin, any insights, highlights?
Oh no, I think you were great. Thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate all of the insights that you shared, and also some of the tools and techniques from that transition, because you're not going to be the only therapist, that goes from in person to remote work and looking at the screen and saying like, hey, can I have the same type of therapeutic relationship with my patients online that I did when I was in person? So I appreciate what you had to offer and your experience in sharing it with us. It's been really great.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And thanks to all the listeners for another episode of Beyond the Therapy Session. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye,
Sure.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.